I've always been drawn to the woods, to the kind of silence you can only find when you're miles away from the nearest road. That's why I went camping alone, deep in a forest that felt ancient and untouched. I wanted to disconnect, to hear nothing but the wind in the leaves and the crackle of my campfire. The first day was perfect. The air was crisp. The solitude was exactly what I needed. And as the sun set, the forest settled into a peaceful hush. But as true darkness fell, something else began. It started as a faint, almost melodic sound. A whistle. At first, I dismissed it. It's the woods, right? The wind plays tricks, weaving through branches and creating strange noises. I pulled my sleeping bag tighter around me, closed my eyes, and tried to focus on the warmth of the dying embers. But the whistling didn't fade. Instead, it seemed to get closer. An hour later, it was no longer a distant whisper, but a clear, distinct tune just beyond the edge of my campsite. It had a strange, hypnotic quality, but it was starting to make the hair on my arms stand up. I told myself it was just an animal, maybe a bird I didn't recognize. I tried to ignore it, to will it away. That's when I noticed the light. A faint, ethereal glow was pulsing from the trees surrounding my tent. My heart started hammering against my ribs. I grabbed my flashlight and cautiously unzipped the tent flap. The beam cut through the darkness, and what I saw made my blood run cold. Carved into the bark of the nearest trees were intricate, swirling patterns. They weren't just carvings. They were glowing with a soft, sickly green light. I had walked past these same trees just hours before, and I swear, they were bare. It felt like the forest itself was watching me, marking my location. The whistling intensified, no longer just a sound in the air, but a piercing noise that seemed to vibrate inside my own skull. It was relentless, echoing from every direction at once, as if the source was everywhere and nowhere. Panic set in. This wasn't the wind, this wasn't an animal. I had to get out. I scrambled to pack my things, my hands shaking so badly I could barely stuff my sleeping bag into its sack. I abandoned the tent, grabbing only my backpack and flashlight. I had to leave. Now, but the forest wasn't going to let me go that easily. As I aimed my flashlight toward the path I'd come in on, I saw them. Tall, impossibly thin figures stood between the trees. They were just silhouettes, darker than the night around them, completely still. They weren't moving, but I knew they were blocking my way. I swung my light to the left, and there were more. To the right, the same. Every escape route was guarded by these silent, shadowy sentinels. The whistling in my head reached a deafening crescendo, and in that same moment, my flashlight flickered and died. I was plunged into absolute, suffocating darkness. I couldn't see a thing, but I could hear the whistling, and now a new sound, a soft crunch of leaves, as if the figures were closing in. I didn't think, I just ran. I ran blindly, crashing through underbrush, branches whipping at my face. I had no idea which way I was going, only that I had to move. I could feel a cold presence behind me, the whistling chasing me, mocking me. I tripped and fell, my lungs burning, convinced this was the end. I was going to die out here, another story whispered around the campfire. Just as I gave up all hope, I stumbled forward and broke through the tree line, and then silence. Complete and total silence. The whistling vanished in an instant. I was standing on the edge of a dirt road, the moon casting a gentle light. The forest behind me was just a dark, quiet wall of trees. There was no sound, no glowing carvings, no figures. It was as if it had all been a nightmare. I made it back to my car and drove away without looking back. But even now, when I close my eyes, I see them. The glowing carvings burned into my memory. And sometimes, in the dead of night, I can almost hear a faint, distant whistle on the wind. Thanks for listening, everyone. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more. Stay safe out there. Last summer, I decided it was time. Time for my kids' first real camping trip. I pictured it all. The crackling fire, gooey marshmallows, stars lighting up the sky like a planetarium. For the first few hours, it was exactly that. Picture perfect. We told spooky stories, laughed until our sides hurt, and finally snuggled into our sleeping bags, feeling cozy and adventurous. The forest was peaceful, just the gentle hum of crickets and the whisper of the wind through the trees. But then another sound joined the chorus, a different kind of whisper. It wasn't the wind, it was close, right outside our tent. I told the kids it was probably just the leaves, but my own heart started beating a little faster. The whispering got louder, almost like faint, raspy words I couldn't quite make out. My son grabbed my arm, his eyes wide in the dark. "Dad, what is that?" he whispered, his voice trembling. Before I could answer, the whole tent started to shake. Not just a little tremble, but a violent, rhythmic shaking, as if something was deliberately pushing against it. The kids started to cry, huddling together at the back of the tent. My mind was racing. An animal? A bear? But what kind of animal whispers? I tried to be the brave dad. "It's okay," I said, my voice sounding a lot less convincing than I wanted. "It's probably just a big raccoon looking for marshmallows," but I didn't believe it. Then came the growl, a low, guttural sound that vibrated through the ground. It was deep, and it was angry. Heavy footsteps started circling the tent. Thump, 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 pacing back and forth, just inches from where we lay frozen in fear. The whispering had stopped, replaced by this menacing presence just outside the thin nylon wall. Every instinct was screaming at me to stay put, to not make a sound. But I had to know. I had to protect my kids. My hand was shaking so badly I could barely grip the zipper. Taking a deep breath, I slowly, carefully pulled it down. The sound was deafening in the silence. I grabbed my flashlight, my knuckles white, and pointed it out into the pitch-black void. And that's when I saw them. Two glowing eyes reflecting the beam of my light, staring right back at me from the darkness. They were low to the ground, unblinking. My throat went dry. A scream was building in my chest. This was it. This was the moment from every horror movie. I braced myself for the attack. The glowing eyes blinked slowly, and then I heard a very familiar, very tiny sound. Meow. My flashlight beam dropped lower, and there she was. Whiskers, our Fluffy, slightly overweight tabby cat, sitting there looking utterly confused as to why we were all sleeping in a bag in her backyard. Apparently, she'd followed us the entire 5 miles from home. The terror just evaporated, replaced by the most ridiculous, overwhelming wave of relief. We all burst out laughing, scooping her up and pulling her into the tent. The fear was real, though. And I'll never forget those few minutes when I was absolutely convinced that some ancient forest monster had come for us. Turns out it was just a 10-pound ball of fur who missed her dinner. So, has anything like this ever happened to you? A moment of pure terror that turned out to be completely harmless? Let me know your stories in the comments below. If you enjoyed this little tale, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more adventures. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. The lake was our place. My dad and I spent countless hours here, casting our lines, not saying much, but sharing everything. Now, years after he's gone, I find myself back at the same spot, alone. The sun has dipped below the horizon, and the world has hushed into twilight. There's a chill in the air that has nothing to do with the evening breeze. It's the ache of his absence, a constant companion these days. I set up my gear more out of habit than any real desire to fish. The rhythmic lapping of the water against the shore is the only sound, a lonely metronome counting out the quiet minutes. The moon climbs higher, painting the surface of the lake in shimmering silver. It's beautiful, in a heartbreaking sort of way. I remember him telling me how the moon pulls the tide, a force you can't see, but always feel. Grief is like that, I guess. I stare across the water, lost in thought, my gaze unfocused. And then I see him, standing on the opposite shore, bathed in that same ethereal moonlight, is a figure. It's him. My dad. My heart stops, then hammers against my ribs. It can't be. But it is. The same posture, the same familiar silhouette I've seen 1,000 times. He's just there. I can't breathe, can't move. I'm frozen, caught between disbelief and a desperate, surging hope. He doesn't wave, doesn't call out. He just stands there, looking at me across the silvery expanse. Then, slowly, he raises an arm and points, not at me, but down toward the water near the side of the lake. His gesture is calm, deliberate. I follow his finger, my eyes straining in the dim light. And just as my focus shifts, he's gone, vanished. The shore is empty again, as if he were never there. Was it a trick of the light? A product of my own longing? My mind is reeling, but the image is burned into my memory. I don't know what compels me, but I start walking. Around the edge of the lake, my feet moving automatically over the familiar path. My flashlight beam cuts through the darkness, dancing over roots and rocks. I have to see what he was pointing at. It takes a while to get to the other side, and with every step, the doubt grows stronger. Maybe I'm just chasing a ghost, a memory. But then, as I get closer to the spot where he stood, I see it. Bobbing gently in the water, caught in a tangle of reeds, is a dark shape. It's a small old wooden box. With trembling hands, I wade into the shallows and retrieve it. The wood is waterlogged and ancient, with a simple, rusted latch. I carry it back to the shore and sit down, my heart pounding. I pry open the lid. Inside, protected by a layer of oilcloth, is a collection of memories. Old, faded photographs of him and me. Pictures from fishing trips just like this one. Me as a little boy, grinning with the fish that was almost as big as I was. Beneath the photos are letters, his familiar handwriting looping across the yellowed pages. And on top of it all, a single folded note. It's for me. I knew you'd come back, it reads. No matter where you go, I'm always with you. Just look for me in the quiet places. Tears stream down my face, not of sadness, but of a profound, overwhelming peace. He's not gone. He's here. In the moonlight on the water, in the whisper of the wind, in the quiet places. He's still watching over me. That night by the lake, I finally said my goodbye, not with sorrow, but with a heart full of love and the comforting knowledge that we are never truly alone. Thanks for joining me on this personal journey. If this story touched you, please give it a like and consider subscribing for more stories from the heart. Until next time.